Based on popular request, I'm going to walk everybody through my home golf simulator. I'm going to show you some of the products that I used and some of the technology, the hardware that I use in my golf simulator. Probably start off with the dimensions of my simulator bay. So I'll do a 360 shot here shortly, but to give you an idea of the size of my simulator bay, it's 20 feet wide by 20 feet deep by 13.5 feet tall. So more than enough room for any length of club without having to worry about tagging any ceiling beams or back walls, and still quite a bit of room for some spectators and colleagues or friends to be sitting inside the simulator bay while you're playing a round of golf. So that's one really important thing for some of you that are considering building a simulator bay. I have played on a few different golf simulators where the dimensions of the room weren't quite big enough and you couldn't use a driver or a fairway wood or any of the above. And if you're just trying to get into swinging some golf clubs throughout the winter months and just kind of trying to stay in shape with your game and work on some wedges and some short irons, that's perfectly fine. But if you're going to invest any kind of money into a simulator bay, you want to make sure that the dimensions are going to work for all sorts of clubs and all sorts of height of players. Obviously, the taller the player, the longer the arms and the more reach with clubs like the driver. So again, 20 foot by 20 foot by 13.5 feet tall in the center. More than enough room to have any and all ages playing golf inside the simulator bay. One thing that you'll notice, I don't have curtains or ceiling baffles or foam tiles around my simulator bay. And that's a personal preference. For my quality of game, and I'm just an amateur golfer, but for my quality of game, I don't have any problems hitting the screen. So my dimensions from the screen to ball, 10 feet. And again, from right or left side, either or, I'm 10 feet again. So I'm exactly in the center of my simulator bay for striking and shooting the golf shots into the screen. I have a 14 foot wide impact screen by 9 feet tall. So I opted, again, personal preference, for no curtains down the sides, left or right, and no screen or baffles on the actual ceiling. So again, that's a recommendation that it's completely up to you based on your personal skill level of golf or whoever you might have inside your simulator bay hitting golf shots. So it might be required depending on who you are. But with my 14.5 foot wide screen being 10 feet back, it's a pretty big target, and it is hard to miss. I have hit a few hosel rockets, and they always clip, I'm right-handed, so they always clip the right-hand side of the screen without any issue. I do have a 7-year-old daughter that comes in here, and she's just learning the game of golf, and she'll swing some drivers and hit some out to the right side of the screen, and still no issues. No shanks. We've never actually hit the wall, the side walls of left or right inside the bay. So personal preference. I opted to use my simulator bay as a multi-purpose room. So once I take you on a 360 view, you'll see that I am using it as still a garage. I wanted to kind of use the space as a multi-purpose. I have a workbench kind of on the front right-hand side and one on the opposite as well for just normal everyday tinkering. I've got some garden tools stored in the shed here. I've got a steel shelf with a lot of Rubbermaid totes on the side. I keep decorations and once a year, kind of Christmas, Easter, those type of decorations inside for storage. But that gives you a bit of an idea of what I'm trying to accomplish here with my simulator bay. But probably the first place we're going to start is the impact screen. So taking a look at the impact screen, and I have all my lights on right now. I don't normally play with this many, the bright lights, the white light on during practice rounds or just online golf play. But for the purpose of the camera today, we're going to keep it nice and bright in here. But you see the screen, it is slightly washed out with the bright lights on. This particular screen that I use is a screen bought out of Canada from a company called Par to Pro. So this model of screen is the SQ T0. It's a custom, obviously custom size for my space. But the nice features of this particular screen, obviously when I have the lights dimmed down, is it's extremely clear and sharp picture. and I'll go through and touch on my projector here later in the video. Another nice part, what the SQ stands for, is super quiet. So the super quiet impact, for whether it's a driver, iron shot, whatever it might be, is a super quiet shot coming off the screen with minimal or low bounce. So that's very important. I don't have balls coming off the screen and flying back and bouncing off the back wall. It's pretty much hit the screen and drop down onto my putting turf. And I do have my simulator bay as a standalone building built in my backyard. So neighbors, if I'm out playing late in the evening, they're not having to listen to the extreme loud smashes into the screen. Unfortunately, they still hear the impact off of the fairway or the driver. So, but very quiet screen. One other really nice feature of this particular screen is it is washable. I've never actually washed it before. I have yet to do that, but it is absolutely washable. It is a 2-layer screen, so there's no archery netting in the front, there's no archery netting behind the screen required. I hear a lot of people using, in some cases they might be using a homemade screen or a much lesser quality of a screen where they'll put archery net behind or in front just for when those wear spots start coming through and they don't have a ball go through the back wall or hit the back wall, etc. The GC Quad is the launch monitor that I use, and on the GC Quad it has a ball counter, so how many shots that the GC Quad has tracked over the course of its life. Right now I have about 38,000 shots into this impact screen, and prior to the video taking a very close look at the screen, there is 0 wear marks on this screen so far. And the downside of having such a large screen is the part that you're wearing out is right in the center, and the sides and the corners and everything are like a brand new screen. But at the moment, current time, there is no wear marks in the screen whatsoever. And there's a lot of feedback, online forums, etc., talking about simulator golf and online screens and different things like that. The screen people are recommending, and what comes to mind is a Strixon golf ball. Strixon golf balls are supposed to be very friendly to an impact screen. For my purposes, I use whatever ball I choose. If somebody comes in here and they have a specific golf ball that they like to use, I let them hit whatever golf ball they choose. I use a Pro V1 or a Pro V1X, kind of go back and forth between the 2 golf balls. And again, I'm seeing no significant wear. But one thing to keep in mind with the golf balls is inside a simulator bay, they're going to wear the white finish off the golf ball a lot faster inside here because you're hitting the golf ball that many more times compared to how long you use a golf ball out on the course. I guess in my case anyway, out on the course, I'll lose a golf ball long before I wear it out. Inside the simulator bay, I just got to keep an eye on the golf ball, make sure that ball is still nice and smooth, so that the excessive spin from wedge shots isn't kind of chewing up the screen with a rough, sharp-edged, beat-up golf ball. So just something to keep in mind, keep the screen in good shape. But I'm going to relocate our camera, and I'll slide up a portion of my screen and give you a look at what I have and what I've built for my frame. So because it is a custom screen, I chose to build my own frame, and I used RHS square tubing. It's a 50 mil by 50 mil square tubing, and I opted to use that versus wood or a round tubing. The round tubing was harder to come by and slightly more expensive. The RHS 50 mil by 50 mil, and it's a thin wall, probably a 2 mil wall thickness. It's light, but still it doesn't have any bowing, which I considered using wood framed for my impact screen. But with the humidity and just over time with the weight of the screen hanging off of it, eventually that wood is going to start warping and it's going to get some bowing into it. And the tubing, light walled tubing and stuff, some people are using PVC, but when you're hitting heavy driver shots into the screen, I didn't want the rattling of the frame. I didn't want to have the frame shifting or any of those types of issues. So I opted to use the square tubing. It sits nice and square and flush on the ground. It butts up really nice against the back wall, and I have a few brackets where it's just bolted to the back beams of my simulator bay itself. One key point to consider with your impact screen or your frame is keep it off the wall, minimum of 12 inches up to 18 inches. And that's going to depend on the screen, on how much give it has when the ball is hitting it. So if you have a kind of a floppy screen, it's not really tight inside the frame itself, if you're up against the wall less than 12 inches, that ball can impact the screen, hit the back wall, and then you start getting more bounce back and ricochet, and obviously you're going to have a noise problem as well. So probably some dangers along with that. So for my environment here, I have the minimum. I'm 12 inches off the wall with this SQ screen from Projector. Projector is a Canadian company. They do ship North America wide, US and Canada. So look on their website. I'll put the link in the description below for the make and model of my screen. To give you a bit of an idea of the cost in US dollars, this screen, 14.5 feet by 9 feet high, was about $875 US. And you do have the option to have Velcro strapping embedded inside, because it is a custom screen. You can buy a pre-made screen. They make them a 10 by 12 or a 10 by 10, 12 by 12. But again, because mine was a slightly wider screen, it was a custom build. And a few weeks to get it built and shipped over to me. I did opt for the grommets in the side, and how I put my screen and mount my screen onto the actual metal frame itself is with your classic bungee. So I go through the grommet and I mount the screen onto my square tubing, and they're about 12 inches apart each grommet, and that keeps it nice and taut. You don't have to have the screen tight. In fact, you don't want it tight, but you want it flat or tight enough that there's no ripples and the screen looks good. So because I don't have the curtains, the sidewall curtains, I did opt to cover the square frame where the impact screen is tied to, just in case you do get a hosel rocket or a shank of some sort. You don't want that golf ball hitting that steel tubing, and who knows where it's going to go from that point. So what I've done is I've gone down to a local hardware store and bought this foam tubing, basically. And this is in your plumbing section at Lowe's, Home Depot, Bunnings. You can get this. It is one solid piece when you buy it, and it's insulation for plumbing pipe. And I've just taken a razor blade, sliced down the side, and what I do is I wrap it around my square tubing, and then I'll take an additional bungee and throw my bungee and just keep it nice and tight, and that stops any type of potential ricochet for any kind of shanked golf ball off that steel frame. Again, it hasn't happened, but just in case, it gives you a little peace of mind having that foam protection on top of the screen. Just going to readjust the camera here, and we'll take a better look at what I've done on the ceiling of my screen. So no netting, no archery netting, no foam baffles, no foam tiles on the ceiling itself. What I've actually incorporated into the frame itself is about a 3-foot ceiling, 1 meter 3 foot, coming off the top of the screen, and it's sitting at just over 9 feet. I've jetted out 1 meter wide, and I've covered it with acoustic panels. Just bought your normal acoustic cheaper panels right off of Amazon, and I've again heard a lot of people in forums talking about the foam acoustic panels not being thick enough. These are 2 inches thick, and any type of flop shot that I do hit, these acoustic panels soak it up perfectly fine. Basically, on a flop shot or a skied driver, don't hit a lot of those, but it has happened in here before. It does get taken up by the acoustic panel on this 1 meter jet out of ceiling. It basically hits the foam panel, ricochets down, hits the screen, and just comes back and comes right back to your feet. So purposely, I will hit flop shots, and I will hit them off that ceiling just the way the flop shot comes out with a 58 or a 60 degree wedge, and no issues. It's not loud, it's not violent by no means. It does a very good job with just these normal acoustic panels. Again, nothing special about these acoustic panels. They're quite cheap off of Amazon. Link in the description below. 1 meter is all I needed for the ceiling. And that has taken up, and again, there has been some skied drivers, some skied 3 woods, and quite a few flop shots hit off this ceiling. And 1 meter is plenty for my hitting location 10 feet from the screen to soak up any of those particular shots. My simulator bay is basically it's a 1.5 or almost 2-car garage, and it is insulated with thin walled insulation, probably 3/4 to an inch thick. I have seen a driver get skied and hit that foam insulation without any trouble and any bad ricochets, but 99% of the time this 1 meter jet out definitely takes care of all the issues and any type of bad shots. So a quick look at what I have in the entire bay here, and like I was talking at the start of the video, I do use my simulator bay as a multi-purpose room, and that was the storage that I was talking about. So on the wall over here I have a normal Home Depot industrial size steel shelf and some Rubbermaid totes on the top full of decorations, just things that we don't access a lot throughout the year. They can sit up here and it gives us a little additional storage. I did think about putting that black curtain down the side just to kind of close it in and make it look more like a simulator bay, but it was more a cost decision over anything. I didn't require it, again, due to the lack of shanked shots, but from my location, trying to find those canvas type heavy curtains for both sides, it came at what I believe was a significant cost, so again I opted out. What I have hanging off the shelf is an old whiteboard, and I've put a couple electrical brackets on here, and I've got a few shafts just for messing around with in the simulator bay using the GC quad. Multiple shafts for drivers, hybrids, 3 woods, and then I have a few iron fitting clubs here. Typically when I buy a new set of irons every year, I'll buy the extra 6 iron and I'll set up the extra 6 iron head for my fitting shafts. And it just gives me an understanding of if the shaft that I'm currently using last year is fit for purpose for the new irons this year, and not in all cases is it. So I have almost every well-known popular shaft from different weights. In my case I use an X-Flex shaft in my irons and my woods. So I have some stiff and X-Flex, multiple different weights, a lot of different brands, and I'll swap them in and out and just ensure that I have the best shaft for the type of iron that I'm using this year. But just bear with me while I adjust our camera angle here. I am a one-man band, so we're gonna relocate. And we're gonna take a look at our matting. I'll come back to the hitting mat itself in a second, but the mat itself that I've wrapped around my entire simulator and my stance mat was the purpose and the important part of it was to ensure that I had a perfectly flat surface going up to my stance mat. And to give you an idea, the stance mat that I chose was from Fiberbuilt. It's called the 9x4 studio mat, or center studio mat, center hitting studio mat. It's extremely popular, and I've went through quite a few different hitting mats prior to purchasing the one that I ended up going with. And the reason I went with the Fiberbuilt was the longevity and how long it's going to last. So to give you a quick look, the Fiberbuilt mat, the main hitting area is center striking, and you have a left and right stance, so we're set up for a left and right player. It works great for any radar-based launch monitor, TrackMan, flight scope, etc. And because it is left and right, it works great for the Skytrax or the GC quads, GC2s, all those type of launch monitors fit perfect on either side. But what is really appealing to the Fiberbuilt stance mat is 300,000 hits is what this stance mat is guaranteed for. And it is only the center piece guaranteed for the 300,000 hits. The stance where you're standing on, this particular mat, it is a different type of grass, different type of mat, and it is more for standing on. I have hit a couple wedges off of it and it holds up just fine. I don't know what it would hold up like if you were using it as an everyday hitting mat. It wasn't designed, in my opinion, wasn't designed for that. But what's great about the Fiberbuilt center striking mat here is it is a very lush bristle. So when you're using your irons, your wedges, you're able to hit down into these bristles and really hit down on the golf ball, and just like you're out on a normal fairway, you can get down on the golf ball and get some good, nice, clean shots. And another great idea and a great piece of this fluffy bristle on the Fiberbuilt mat is if you have any type of injury or wrist injury or tennis elbow or anything like that, this will definitely help reduce those potential injuries in the future. Personally myself, I suffer from a lot of tennis elbow or golfer's elbow from going to the local driving ranges and using those cheaper 1-inch thick rubber mats and hitting down on a golf ball and taking that impact up through your, in my case, my left arm. Still causing me some issues today, but this one's definitely a huge improvement. But one nice feature to the center striking piece of the Fiberbuilt mat, and if you can have a quick look, this mat is basically 4 pieces, and they're set up like puzzle pieces. So each section of the mat, and this is basically where one of those pieces cuts off, each section is good for 300,000 strikes. So there's 4 sections here. We have roughly 1.2 million strikes that we can make on this mat. So if I'm always hitting from this section and I start wearing out the fibers on the hitting mat here, I can come back, undo a few of these screws, take these side panels off and rearrange 4 of these panels in whatever order I choose and get a new fresh piece of grass in my main striking area. So that's how you get that 1.2 million strikes off of one strip of matting. And very affordable. If you do have to replace, I haven't had to yet, but if you did have to replace one of these mats, I think there were one little square section of this hitting mat was about $100, maybe just over $100 to replace one. I don't know how long it's going to take to hit over 1 million shots on here, but it's a long time, so probably by the time that happens, there'll be something new, latest and greatest technology for stance mats out there. But the Fiberbuilt was the mat of choice. I tried a lot of different products out there, and this one was the mat for my liking. Fiberbuilt, it is a Canadian company, free shipping anywhere in North America, US or Canada. This particular mat, this is the 9x4 studio mat, it was about $1,200. That gives you a gist of how much this particular mat cost. And solid on the ground, it has a very good rubber base, and it's very heavy, and the base itself gets pieced together like puzzle pieces, so it's easy to remove and clean out, or if you have to use your garage, if this is set up in your garage, you're able to remove this mat quite easily. But once it's built and assembled on the, in my case, concrete floor, it is hard as heck to move. You don't get any slipping or sliding either way. If you want to move it even just a centimeter or two, it's pretty much glued to the concrete with that rubber base, and it's a quite heavy rubber base. But what I had to come up with, and part of the challenge when I was thinking about a simulator bay, is how can I incorporate putting into my simulator bay? And trialing the Fiberbuilt mat prior to purchasing it, I was hitting some putts off the center, wondering, well, with this fluffy bristle hitting mat, can you actually putt without having the ball bouncing across the mat? And I can confirm that I putt and play online golf in my simulator bay here, and I hit putts just like I normally do on any grass green surface, and they roll perfectly fine. I wouldn't say that they're PGA true rolling off of here, but absolutely good enough for indoor golf or simulator golf. I have zero complaints about any putting or any kind of putt golf ball coming off of this. But what was one of the challenging pieces is how do I get a level surface coming off of my Fiberbuilt mat? So what I've done with a lot of research is came up with, I'll just get my grass out of the road here, I found some premium gym mat. So this premium gym mat comes out of Australia, made in China, so you can buy it direct out of China, and I'll put the link in the description below. This is the gym mat that you would see on wrestling rings, mixed martial arts, octagon type rings. You'll see this type of mat, and it's got a high classification and a health and safety rating for 1.2 meter critical fall on this type of mat. So what was appealing to me was the overall thickness. So these mats are 1 meter by 1 meter, and the thickness in my case was 36 millimeters thick, which worked very well for the putting turf that I purchased. So the putting turf on top of my gym mat went perfectly flush to my Fiberbuilt hitting mat. So this foam mat, as hard as it is, it's good for a rating of 105 kgs per square meter. So a lot of weight, you can put a lot of heavy stance on it, and it's not a foam or a rubber that's going to compress and take a while to go back to its original state. Instantly you can jump on it, and if your heel does dig in a little bit, instantly it pops right back. There's no time in between. So plenty of weight that these particular mats can handle. They are durable. You can wash them off with water. You can hose them off with a garden hose or a light pressure washer, and have no issues with that. And they are, as you can see, with the adjustments on the top here, you can just latch them all together and piece them together like puzzle pieces. My mat has been built right around the Fiberbuilt studio mat, so that we have a completely nice rectangle space for all the golf balls to hit the screen and land onto our putting mat. So basically the ball off the screen, as it comes down, ricochets and hits the artificial turf, the putting turf here on this gym mat, instantly deadens the ball and kind of rolls almost right back to your feet without any issues. So very durable, highly recommend it. Link in the description below. I'm going to pop this one back in and fold the mat over, and we'll talk about the next item. So a quick note on my artificial turf. This is, what the heck did we call it? I think it's called Premium Elite Putting Turf. Link in the description below. I know a lot of you from around the world, specifically Europe and North America, you're going to have a lot of options for artificial turf from different companies. The link in the description below is an Australian-based company, and this is a commercial grade putting turf. I didn't choose to put any silica sand on top for weighting on this, just because it's indoors and I didn't want to have that little mess of sand all over the place. But if it is an outdoor carpet, commercial grade with a warranty of 7 years on it. So plenty of good work, plenty of good quality in this mat, and I'll use it all the time, and I'll set up a putting hole on one side, and I'll sit here and I'll putt side to side, left to right, and work on some putting with a GC Quad integrated putting analysis tool. So rolls really nice, rolls really true, and again, if you want to add the silica sand on the top, it adds weight to keep the carpet down, but it also speeds up the green as well. So whatever the stimp of this particular artificial turf, as you add silica sand, it'll just kind of speed up the putts themselves. Just going to refer to my notes here and make sure I never missed anything. These gym mats, again, they're 1 meter by 1 meter, 36 millimeter thick, and each mat is roughly $25 per mat. So there's quite a few mats inside here for the size that I chose. And as you can see, I built it around my Fiberbuilt, just to kind of tie everything together and make it a little neater and a little nicer. They were $25 per tile. If you went direct to China, they are quite a bit cheaper. They're probably around the $15 mark. So to start the next segment of our video, I'm just going to give you a 360-degree look of the simulator bay that we're talking about today. And then we're going to move into a very important piece of any home simulator bay would be the lighting. So link in the description below, you'll get a better picture and a close-up look of the lighting that I use. And these are ceiling mounted spotlights. And basically there's a disc on each one of these lights that you can rotate and change the aperture on the actual spotlights. So by doing that, you can change the size of the circle that it projects onto the ground. I particularly use the largest circle, and I've crisscrossed them. You can kind of see up there, but I've crisscrossed them in an X pattern. And what that does is it doesn't shine or allow the light to shine in my eyes while I'm addressing the golf ball or at any time in the follow through of the golf swing itself. So down with the lights on the stance mat. That's kind of what they're looking like. And I have them all on individual switches. So I'm just going to turn off the main light, and that's basically what it looks like. So on camera it might appear a little darker in the room than what it actually is. But these lights light up the entire person, the swing, the golf ball, and I have no issues whatsoever using any launch monitors with this particular light. One thing worth noting is if you're going to add lighting, I would recommend you look at the manuals of your launch monitors and just ensure that you can use LED white light, or in my case I'm using warm white. And warm white is that yellow light, and it definitely helps on eyes and gives you better quality in cameras, etc. But I know there are some launch monitors out there that with a bright white or a fluorescent looking light causes issues on some launch monitors. So I chose to go with the warm white, and putting the 5 up on the top of the ceiling here in that pattern. And again, they're on crisscrossed patterns, so we can turn the lights on individually, leave them all on, turn left side off, turn right side off. Having them on separate switches definitely adds value. And another item that I hear a lot of people talking about online, you can see that black device. It's about the size of a mouse in the center, under the center light there. That's a USB mic. And what it is from MXL. It's an AC404 conference microphone. So that particular microphone is the microphone I use with OBS for any of my filming. Right now I'm just using the microphone on the camera, but any filming that I'm using for any of the YouTube videos that I publish come off that microphone, just strapped, it's velcroed to the main beam in the center of the studio here. Works perfectly fine. It's about $95 roughly in the United States, so highly recommend that. What it is meant for is a big boardroom table, and it would sit flush flat down on a boardroom table, and everybody around the table can be heard perfectly fine. Have a look in the link of the description below if you're looking for a good mic that is going to get the job done inside your golf simulator bay. Definitely I recommend the MXL AC404. We're going to take a quick look at our projector. So the projector that I use, I'm just going to grab my notes here so I get all the model numbers right, but I will have it in the link of the description below. I use the Panasonic VZ585N. In the United States, this projector will run anywhere from $1,500 to $1,700. It's a 1920 by 1200, 16 by 10 aspect ratio, and that aspect ratio was extremely important to me for the fact that the impact screen and the simulator golf software will have the screen go all the way and down to the bottom of my hitting mat. So when you're hitting putts, they just travel right across the grass and right out onto the actual green. So if we were talking about a 1920 by 1080p, the 16 by 9 aspect ratio, you're going to end up with the black bars at the bottom of the screen and a black bar at the top. For a lot of people that wouldn't bother them, but for me, I wanted the screen to be able to go all the way down. Since the impact screen goes all the way to the floor, why not have the picture go all the way to the floor? So 5,000 lumens, it's a more cost-effective projector. I know there's a lot of conversation about should I get a laser projector, should I do this, should I do that. If you're gonna ask me for my opinion, I think a laser projector is a little bit overkill for a golf simulator. Only for the reason that you are hitting into an impact screen. They are good quality impact screen for picture, but the picture on the screen itself, it isn't perfect, and it's, in my opinion, not worthy of having a laser projector at a high cost projecting a picture on here. It will be slightly better than our standard lamp model that we have up here, but probably not worth the money unless you have the money to invest. What I would do is take that additional money from a laser projector and invest it into a few other things inside your golf simulator bay. And I never mentioned it during the talk about our Fiberbuilt mat, but I'm a firm believer that the hitting mat is probably the heart of the golf simulator. If you have a good hitting mat, the rest of the simulator over time will grow, and you'll be able to add and upgrade and continue to work on your simulator. But if you're going to spend good dollars on anything in a golf simulator, outside of your launch monitor obviously, the hitting mat I think is probably the most important piece. That is going to give you the quality of golf that you expect on the indoors. It's going to allow you to hit good golf shots. It's going to allow you to set up drives with putting your tee at whatever height you require and not making any compromises. Again, if you wanted to use your lower cost or cheaper driving range mat that you might see at your local driving range, that's a great mat to get started, and over the course of time you can upgrade. But I highly recommend looking at and spending good money on a great hitting mat. So Panasonic projector, link in the description below. Have a look at it. I found out about this particular projector from some local communities and some other local friends that I have that have golf simulators, and they use this particular model. It was recommended based on cost and what you get for the picture. Again, highly recommend this one. And as you can see, I have a roller door on the back of my garage, and like I said, it was a standalone building inside my simulator, or inside my backyard. So every now and then we'll have backyard family gatherings or friends, colleagues over for a bit of a barbecue in the back. If we get into the evening, we will open the door up and put a few lawn chairs down on the concrete here and put a kids movie on with the door open. I live in the Sunshine State, so great weather year round in the evenings and throughout the entire day. So the kids all sit in here and they'll watch a great movie, and the picture, I've watched a few movies in here, absolutely immaculate. So I have zero issues, zero complaints about any type of quality that you get from the projector or the impact screen. So moving on, we're going to take a quick look at a few other things that I have inside the simulator bay. We have on the top of the on the wall here a Samsung QLED TV. It's a 75-inch TV, and as you can see, I have swing catalyst up on this screen. So if I'm in here working on my game on the driving range, Foresight driving range, working on my game, I'll put the swing catalyst feedback screen up here. And on my smaller monitor, as you can see, I have the feedback for the club analysis from Foresight Sports GC Quad. So I'll keep the impact screen and look at all my club data on the impact on the smaller screen and watch the slow motion swings on the top screen. And I do have them on pull-out stands, so once I get set up inside the simulator bay, I'll set it up so that it's a little more immersive for the golfer and everything's really right there. You just add a dress, you can quickly have a look up, make sure everything looks good. Basically like having a mirror inside the simulator bay. And vice versa, I'll use the TV for either the analysis screen, I'll use it for just general YouTube or internet type videos. I might watch a bit of golf on there while I'm playing a round of golf, so gives you an idea. There's a 32-inch monitor down here. I'm going to get a little closer so we can see what I have on there. So that's the club data from the GC Quad. So this one is on a a pivoting screen mount as well, so I'll pull that out and get that a little bit closer to the golfer, and we can tilt it any different direction we want and get the direction we need and pull it closer to the golfer so that you don't have to squint and you can see it quite easily, read all the numbers, read all the data from the actual golf shots themselves. So that's what we have on the wall. I don't have a touch monitor inside my simulator bay. I'm kind of on the fence with touch screens. I think they maybe have their purpose. Some of you might agree or disagree, but I have touch screens on all my laptops, my working laptop, and I honestly don't use them. I think they're more trouble than they're worth. But if you're scrolling on a screen up and down on a web page, they work really quite well. I've never used a touchscreen for simulator software golf, so maybe I'm missing out and I just don't know it yet. But for my environment, a touchscreen doesn't quite work for this particular environment that I have here. So on the opposite wall, I have a server case. Where inside the server case, this is where I keep my gaming PC. So I built the PC myself and I put it into an entertainment case so that it would be rack mountable inside a server case. And the idea of the server case was just to keep the dust, because it is a garage, so just to keep some of the dust off the computer and out of the computer itself. High-end specs on this particular computer. I went at current day of this video, the highest and the fastest processor in this particular model. And the fastest graphics card as well. Sorry, stumbling there. So high-end graphics card, high-end processor. You don't quite need the specs that I have on this PC for simulator golf. But once you start tying in simulator golf at the highest graphics and you start adding in Swing Catalyst or any other kind of video analysis software at the same time, all of a sudden you start eating up some of that CPU or some of that graphics card. So what I do is I keep the Swing Catalyst running off of QuickSync from the Intel processor, and then I use the graphics card for the simulator software itself. So that's how I split it up, and it keeps everything running fast, running strong without any hiccups, frame loss, or any other issues. So that's just how I choose to operate it. On top of the top of this toolbox setup, you'll see Elgato key light, and I have another Elgato key light over here, and I use those when I'm doing some filming. So if I'm playing a round of golf in the dark, and typically the rounds that I post on my YouTube channel, I'll turn these two side lights on just to help out the camera and get a little better quality with the camera that I'm using right now. Provide some light, give us a better quality picture. That's really the only time I use those lights on the side. If I'm just hitting golf balls, working on my game, I'll just turn off the lights and use the ceiling mounted that we talked about earlier. So if anybody's looking for any kind of light to add in their simulator and want something movable, highly recommend the Elgato key lights. They are adjusting for brightness. You can use the warm white all the way up to the white fluorescent type lights. You can adjust it on the Elgato app to whatever power or whatever tone you want out of the light itself. So highly recommend the Elgato key lights for any photography studio, or in our case the golf simulator studios. Taking a look at my little roller trolley, basically. Roller trolley on wheels, typically meant for a laptop. I have a wireless keyboard and mouse on here, and this is kind of, I just move it around, and that's how I operate instead of using a touch screen. This is how I operate my software for simulator golf, or any of the options for any of the other tools that I use inside the golf simulator. You will see an Elgato Stream Deck as well. I had a Stream Deck with some pre-programmed buttons. The pre-programmed buttons, basically it's just for fun. The programmed buttons, they have some cheering, some clapping, and if I'm in the simulator playing a round of golf with anybody, we can tap a button on here and have some moaning and groaning if somebody misses a putt. More the Stream Deck itself is more for fun. So we have a loud a loud cheer. And again, I have the Stream Deck. It's just to add a little entertainment to simulator golf when friends and family are inside here playing an online game. So that's what I got on the trolley. Every good simulator, extremely important that you don't necessarily need a ball washer or a club washer, but very important that you keep all your golf clubs and all the golf balls clean prior to hitting into your screen, or you will dirty and wreck the screen. So prior to coming in and hitting inside the simulator bay, I run all my golf clubs through the club washer and give them a little bath before I start hitting golf balls into that nice white screen. And again, another key piece of advice: any golf ball with a marker line or initials or anything like that, avoid using that in an indoor environment like this. The friction from the spin of the golf ball with a marker line or initials written with a Sharpie on a golf ball, they will leave marks on your white screen. So you want to avoid that at all costs if you possibly can. What else can we show you quickly? Over here on the other side of the room, we have a Golf Mechanics Tools of the Trade tipping ruler. So I measure any golf clubs. I build all my own golf clubs from scratch, shaft and everything, drivers, woods, etc. And basically my model is I can do it better than everybody else when I'm trying to work on my own personal golf clubs. So I get exactly what I want and I can't complain because I built them. Here we have a swing weight scale, digital swing weight scale. So we have that in the corner, a tipping ruler. On the other side of the bay, we have all these products are from Golf Mechanics. Again, if anybody wants any additional information on any of these products, just let me know in the comments below, and I'll feed some information over to you, or possibly even do a review on one of these products. But right here we have a gripping station. So this is again from Golf Mechanics, and then we have the dual spool for the grip tape over here. I go through a lot of grips playing year-round golf and hitting a lot of golf shots inside the sim bay, so we change the grips quite often. Over here we have a shaft puller, and this is a reverse thrust shaft puller. Pretty much the best of the best from Golf Mechanics. They have, I'm going to say, 4 or 5 different models of shaft pullers, and this would be the granddaddy of them all. Good product. Back in the corner here we have the shaft prepping station. So ferrule finishing on the right hand side and shaft cutting on the left hand, and then yeah. Here we have the digital loft lie machine, and this is the universal model from Golf Mechanics, and it will do everything from putter throughout the irons, the wedges, hybrids and woods. I don't know who adjusts lofts on hybrids and woods anymore, but if somebody out there needs that, it can be done. And then here we have the frequency analyzer, and I basically use this to profile shafts. If I'm going to put a new driver shaft in, just confirming the flex first of all, but I also like to confirm the profile of the shaft, and that little tool works pretty good for that. I think that wraps this detailed walkthrough of my simulator bay. So if anyone has any questions about anything we talked about, and please feel free to leave comments below. If you stuck it out with us here throughout the whole video, I really appreciate it. And if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. That just helps me want to make these videos. Just like everybody else out there watching these, we're all busy people, so it takes a bit of time to put videos like this together. So if someone's enjoying them and they're getting some good knowledge out of some of these videos that I'm posting, I'll continue to do them. But please subscribe and comment below. Thanks for watching.